All righty, welcome everybody to this session. In this session, I'm very, very, very excited for my guest. My guest is Michael Hellikson. He's the founder and one of the coaches at Club Wealth. He's been practicing real estate for over 20 years and has consistently throughout his career listed and sold about 100 homes per month, of which about 50 to 75 he averaged also about 50 to 75 listings per month, and that's retail. Okay, that's not any other the agents on his team or any other sort of or any of the corporate accounts or anything like that. So 50 to 75 listings is what he would average per month. And like I said, he's the founder of Club Wealth, which has been around since 2003, serves an agent community online on Facebook of thousands of agents. And they have, I think, right about 140 agents under active coaching, everybody from beginners, rookies who are absolutely crushing it, people who you are going to meet or may have already met on the summit. They're going to be sharing their story to agents like the top dog agents, the #2 agent for Coldwell, agents that are averaging 100 listings, at any time in their business. So, Michael, really excited to have you on the call today. Welcome to the Get Listing Summit.
Hey, man, I'm excited. And, as we were talking about before, this is like the accumulation of years of effort, man. Literally 27 years of effort and intense energy in this business have brought me to this moment right here. So, man, I'm super excited. This is radical, man.
Thanks, Michael. No pressure no pressure on me then.
That's awesome.
Well, I'm super excited for this interview, and the fact that also we're doing a series, and I'm really excited just to bring your knowledge and what's working for you and what's driving success for you and for the agents inside Club Wealth. I'm really excited to bring that to the Get Listing Summit. And in this session, I want to focus with you on what's probably one of the most one of the aspects of a real estate agent's business that gets the most attention, and I think also perhaps one of the aspects that gets the most misunderstood, which is lead generation and follow-up. Now, one thing I want to say that I've kind of been thinking about a lot lately as I've been thinking about lead generation and lead follow-up, as I've been interviewing other guests and planning some other interviews and also leading up to our interview here, is I don't remember what podcast I heard this on or where I read this initially, but I read or heard the idea that, about 15% of your leads that are going to do something will do something in the first 90 days. And then about 85% of your leads that will do something are going to do it 90 days plus. Most agents' follow-up, though, is not consistent after 90 days. Most of the time I don't even see being consistent for the first 90 days. So I want to start there a little bit with follow-up, and then maybe go a little bit backwards into lead generation. Talk to me about follow-up and what you see are being some of the biggest mistakes. And also, what do you think about that statistic that I just put out there, that number? Would you agree with that from what you're seeing with your community and with your clients?
I'd say you're right on with the statistic. I mean, I couldn't tell you exactly what the numbers are, but I can tell you this. People are not fast enough to the lead, and they're not consistent enough with that lead. They got to follow up more tenaciously with the lead. When we were killing it and doing all those listings and sales every month, I was literally making 115 to 125 follow-up calls per day. That's critical. You've got to be on those follow-up calls like white on rice. So the other thing is you got to follow up in lots of different ways. So I would say for us, we like to follow up 3 times a day for the first 3 days, 3 times a week for the next 3 weeks, 3 times a month for the next 3 months. So we like to see a minimum of 27 to 29 follow-ups before, with no reciprocal contact from the client. Before we would give up on a lead from a phone call standpoint. We'll still continue to drip on them, text them, all that kind of stuff. Mail them, but at the very least, we want to see 27 to 29 contacts. In terms of speed to contact, it's literally 30 seconds. Used to be you could call a lead, in a day and you'd be fine. Then it was, well, I got to do it within the hour. Then it was, well, now I've got to do it in the first 5 minutes. Look, if you wait 5 minutes, particularly, and we're talking about listings here, but when it comes to online buyer leads, for example, if I don't follow up with that lead in the first 5 minutes, I'm gone. I'm lost. They've already talked to 4 or 5 other agents or received calls from 4 or 5 other agents. And when it comes to listings, same thing. I want to be on that thing immediately. I want to be the nicest guy they've ever talked to, and I want to be the most tenacious guy they'll ever talk to.
Wow. So you're saying that if I'm practicing real estate and I'm an agent and I get a lead, you're saying for me to, I should be following up, and what you're coaching is that I should be following up 3 times a day via phone, just picking up the phone and calling them until I get through to them. Is that what you're saying?
That's right. So, and here's the thing, I'm not going to leave a message 3 times a day. I'm only going to leave a message once a day. I'm also going to text them and I'm going to email them. Now, I might text them multiple times that day. For example, if I'm using a service like a Call Action or a Get Riley Now or something like that, I'll probably text them immediately, or even if it's just myself, I'll text them immediately. And if I don't hear from them again, I'll text them back again in the first 45 to 50 minutes and just shoot them another text saying, hey, not trying to bug you, just want to make sure I'm not dropping the ball on my end.
Okay. What do you typically, so I'm mapping this out in my head. So I get a lead wherever it comes from, assuming it's probably going to be an online lead, because you probably wouldn't have to follow up that much with a warm referral. So I get a lead and I'm calling them 3 times a day. And let's say I do that for 6 days before I get through to them. Okay. And then
you're going to call 3 times a day for the first 3 days.
Oh, for the first 3 days. Got it. Okay. So 3 times a day for the first 3 days. Okay. So 9 touches in the first 72 hours.
Right. That's exactly right.
And then what? And then how frequent do you go after that?
So I go 3 times a day for the first 3 days, then 3 times a week for the next 3 weeks, and then 3 times a month for the next 3 months.
And so you just keep doing that. And if they don't respond, you just keep doing that for basically keep following up via phone for 3 months.
That's right.
That's what it sounds like.
But we're going to follow up longer than that, because what's going to happen is chances are inside those first 27 contacts, I'm going to get in touch with them at some level. So once I've had a conversation with them, I'm going to know about what their timeline is. First thing I want to do, even if they tell me that they're 6 months out, I want to get out there. I want to take a look at the house as soon as I can. I want to make contact. I want to get face to face with them as soon as possible, because I want them to associate me as their real estate agent as quickly as possible. Now, that may not mean that they're ready to list right now, but that's okay. But if they tell me, nah, we're not ready, we don't want you to call us for another 6 months, then I'll call them in 3 months. So I always cut the time in half. Whatever they tell me, I'm going to call them half I'm going to wait half as long to call them.
Gotcha. Okay. So 3 times a day for the first 3 days, then 3 times a week for the next 3 weeks.
Yep.
And then you do 3 times a month for the next 3 months. Right. And the whole point is, even if they're saying I'm not going to list for a while, you still want to start them associating you as their agent. So you still want to make the connection. You still want to go out and see the house. You still, and what do you say? What do you say to them then to set up the appointment if they're saying, well, I'm not ready to sell yet? Because obviously then you're not going to say it's a listing appointment, right? Because they're not ready to list. Or do you say that? So what do you say to get out there to the house? If I say, well, let's role play through that a little bit. Maybe if I say, no, Michael, I appreciate you following up with me, but I'm not ready to list for about 6 months. What would you hypothetically say to that?
Okay, so let's back up. So first of all, it depends on the type of lead. That's a very important connotation. So if it's a lead where they're expecting me to come out as an agent and list their home, or they're expecting that's the type of communication we're having, and you come out and you say, so Michael, I'm not ready for 6 months. All right, cool. So Andre, I totally get that. One of the things that we recommend is that we do a preliminary visit, and it's really good that you're starting as early as you are, because I can come out and give you a very concise and exact, precise idea of what your home is going to sell for, when it sells, and I can also tell you exactly what you need to do. So some tips that you can do to improve the saleability of your home and maybe get an extra $10, $20, $30, $50,000 out of it by just doing a few things. And it could be as simple as moving some furniture around, might be paint, might be carpet, who knows what it is. But I can come out, I can take a quick look, and then during that next 6 months, you can implement those ideas so that we get top dollar when the 6 months happens.
Gotcha. Okay. What are the typical objections to that you might hear that you have to overcome?
Sometimes they'll just say, oh, well, I just want to sell it as is. And so then I'll say, okay, well, good. Well, fantastic. Would it be okay with you if I came out just to take a quick look at it so that I can start building a list of interested buyers so that when you hit the market, I literally have 4, 5, 6 people interested in the house the day it hits the market?
And what's a typical response to that?
99% of the time, they're going to say yes.
Okay.
With one of those two dialogues, they're going to say yes. They're going to let you come out, take a look at the house. You get to build the relationship. And here's the interesting thing. Motivation changes. You never know whether somebody's going to be a today motivated. They might tell you 6 months over the phone, you get out there face to face with them. They're like, it really would be cool to be able to move sooner. Or, I get it. You're right. We're not sure what the market's going to do. So my gosh, maybe we should get it on the market now. just in case the market suffers a hiccup in the next 6 months. Because right now we know we can get this much, and that accomplishes our goal of getting to, Topeka or wherever they're moving.
Right, right. Now, if they still keep resisting, do you push a little farther or harder than that? Those two kind of comebacks, or do you just kind of leave it there? Then, if they keep resisting, you coming out and seeing the house.
It really depends. I mean, I'm not going to push so hard that I'm going to jeopardize the relationship, but I'm definitely going to push as hard as I think I can without jeopardizing the relationship to get face to face with them.
Gotcha. Okay, so all right, so 3 times a day for the first 3 days. 3 times a week for the next 3 weeks, 3 times a month for the next 3 months, and you're always looking to get to the house. That's the goal, is to get to the house, get face to face, get belly to belly, and you want them to start associating you as their real estate agent. So let's say you get out to the house. Let's say I get out to the house, right? And then let's say you're the client. Let's say you're the lead and I'm the agent, and I get out to the house. We take a look at it. I give you my list of things that I think you could do to, sell your house for top dollar. How do you then coach me as an agent to do the follow-up process from there and to get to the listing appointment? Let's say I went out there and they didn't turn into somebody who says, hey, you know what, it would be good to sell now. They've kind of stuck to their 6-month timeline. But I have been to the house. I've met with them. I've given them my ideas, my list of recommendations. What do I do next? What would you coach me to do next as an agent to make sure I maintain the relationship, make sure I stay at top of mind with them, and then to make sure I get the listing appointment, and ultimately end up with the listing?
Yeah. So there's a couple of things you got to do. First and foremost, you're going to set an appointment for that follow-up appointment. If it's 6 months out, cool. Then I'm going to set that appointment for 6 months out. I'm going to put it in the calendar. I'm going to set it up so that they're getting email notifications. I use a program called Schedule Once. And so Schedule Once will send them an email, a text message reminder, all that good stuff. They can reschedule it real easily with Schedule Once and all that. But I want to make sure that there's always an appointment set for our next communication or for that next appointment.
And do you call it a listing appointment? What do you call it when you're setting that next appointment?
I don't call it anything with them. I just say, okay, fantastic. I'm going to come back on such and such a day. We'll go over everything then, see where we're at, make a decision from there.
Okay, got it. So you're not putting any pressure on it by labeling it something. You're just saying, hey, I'll come back around when you're ready. Let's take a look at the house, see what's happening. I'll tell you what the market's doing, that kind of stuff.
That's exactly right. Got to be low key. Got to be low key at this point.
Okay.
So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to the office and I don't do any of this. I hand it off to an assistant. So depending on where you're at in your business, either you're doing this or you've got an assistant or somebody on your team that's handling it for you. But then you got to go back to the office. You take those notes from the appointment. Those got to go into the computer, and you got to set them up on your client appreciation program. So I want to be dripping on them with client appreciation events. So we're going to call them to invite them to. So if it's 6 months out, that means I've got 2 client appreciation events happening because I do client appreciation events every 3 months. So that gives me 2 opportunities to call them and invite them to something fun that has nothing to do with selling their house. No pressure. Maybe we're taking over to do a ball game or to a movie, or we're doing an Easter egg hunt or who knows what, right? But I'm going to make sure they're invited to those. I'm going to make sure that they're getting all of my other drip information. So they're going to be getting emails from me on a regular basis with value-added items, education, the 10 dumbest mistakes smart homeowners make when selling their home, that type of thing. I want to make sure they're getting that on a regular basis. They're going to get testimonials occasionally. They're going to get my just listed, my just solds. So I'm still giving them information, but I'm not closing for the appointment. Now, in follow-up, besides the follow-up calls that I'm doing to invite them to those events, I'm also occasionally going to just give them a call and I'm going to say, hey, Andre, it's Michael Hellikson. Just want to make sure I'm not dropping the ball on mine. I'm looking forward to our appointment on such and such a date. Is there anything I can be doing for you in the meantime? Just literally that simple.
Got it. How many times are you touching them per month with some sort of a drip?
Oh, at least once a week. At least
once a week. Okay, staying consistent. What have you typically found to work best for client appreciation events?
Oh, tons, man. There's so many great ideas for client appreciation events. One of the best ones at Christmas time, you do the photos of Santa. That's always a winner. The Easter egg hunts. We've got clients that are doing Easter egg hunts that have had literally, I kid you not, 2,500 people show up to an Easter egg hunt.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
The client events are huge. That's a big part of our business. We really like the client events. And here's the thing. It's not about getting the people there. I mean, we have people do smaller client events. Christine Lundy, who's one of our coaches down in San Diego, her very first client event, she had never done a client event before, wasn't sure what to do. She did a client event. It cost her $250. She had not a lot of people. I think she had 45 or 50 people show up, so it wasn't a big event. But what's interesting is she did 5 transactions from that one client event. What's really cool about that is 4 of those 5 people didn't even show up to her client event. But she
Really?
did. Yeah, the way she got them was when she was making the phone calls to invite them to the event, they said, we're not going to be able to come to the event, but it's really interesting you're calling right now because we were thinking about buying or we were thinking about selling. And so she got 4.
Gotcha.
How crazy is that?
That is awesome. So for the client appreciation, I want to dig into that just a little bit more. So for the client appreciation events, now obviously I'm assuming that the Easter egg hunt people didn't call 2,500 people. Maybe they did. But you're saying for client appreciation events, you personally are picking up the phone and calling everybody that you want to invite to the event. Am I understanding that correctly?
Absolutely. So we've got a checklist. It's actually got about 101 point checklist behind exactly how to put on a killer client event. And again, they don't have to cost a lot of money. We do have clients that spend as much as $4,000 on a client event, which is
well. That was gonna be my next question. Is what if I'm a rookie and I'm only starting like $5,000 for my whole marketing budget? How can I do a great client appreciation event on a shoestring budget?
Do a barbecue in your backyard. Have your lender bring the food. Done. I mean, seriously, it can be that simple. It's not right. Like, you don't have to go crazy with this stuff in terms of cost. What you do need to do is you need to connect with people, build relationships, and make sure you're bringing them value without expectation of anything in return. The worst thing you can do, and I won't mention who, but there's a coach that teaches, that, every time you call somebody, you should say, by the way, if you were buying or selling a home or had a friend or family member who was, do you have a realtor you'd refer them to? Let me tell you, if you called me up and said that every single time you called me up, I'd start to wonder if you cared more about me or just getting business from me.
Right.
That's very self-serving. So don't do that. Don't be that guy. What you need to do is you need to call people and just give them stuff, man. Just bring value. Gary Vaynerchuk talks about it in terms of jab, 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 right hook, right?
Right.
So be that, just do the jab, jab, jab over and over and over again, value, 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 and then go for the close.
So at your client appreciation events, you are doing absolutely zero talk about business. There's no presentation for business. There's no ask for business. At your client appreciation events, they are purely just a social gathering to appreciate your clients and whoever they might bring. Obviously, these events are open to a +1 situation, right? Or +2 or +3.
That's right. No, you're absolutely right about that. And it's just value, value, value. Have a good time. Make sure everybody down. And we walk around. My goal at every one of my client appreciation events is to make sure that I engage and interact with every single person at that client appreciation event. Here's what I want to accomplish. I want to look them in the eye. I want to know their eye color. That's very important. If you can tell their eye color, you've made eye contact properly. So I want to make sure I know their eye color. I want to shake their hand, maybe put my arm around them, depending on, what kind of relationship I've got. I'm a touchy-feely guy, so I'm pretty likely to give people hugs when I see them. What's happening? How's it going? That kind of thing. But I want to engage, and I want to make sure that they know that I care about them, that I appreciate them, and that I know who they are, and that they're on my radar.
Got it.
So I want that relationship to go as deep as I possibly can. See, that's one of the challenges in this business is people get caught up in transactions and they think very transactionally. When you shift from thinking transactionally to thinking relationally, you move from chasing business to attracting business. And that's the goal. We want to be attracting business, not chasing it.
Though the thing is, I'm not disagreeing with anything you're saying. I actually completely agree with you. The thing is, I can see how agents fall into that trap because when you think about the idea of follow up, right? Like just go Google, real lead follow up strategy on Google, for example. Read the first 10 or 20 blog posts, and it's all very content driven, drip driven. It's not relationally driven. It's not human driven. So what I'm hearing from you is that you definitely have intentional and intelligent follow-up systems in place, but you try to balance them out to be as much human as they are drip and content. Is that right?
Absolutely. Here's the thing you got to remember. People do business with people they know, like, and trust. When they know, like, and trust you, they'll do business with you. What's interesting is most agents, as you said in the beginning, Andre, is that most agents give up early in that process. They stop following up. They stop making contact. And they're using scripts and dialogues. Like, there's another coach out there when it comes to calling your past clients, for example, or your sphere of influence. There's a coach that teaches, you should call them up and, immediately tell them, hey, this is a business call. I just want to let you know that, this is a business call. So who do you know that's thinking about buying or selling a home? Freaking, are you kidding me? That is just so in your face, not relationship driven. Just you need to make sure that you're making that connection with people. And here's the thing, when you do, and when you're truly sincere about it, when you actually care, if you're insincere about it, they're gonna know that. You've got to be sincere about this. But when you're sincere about this and you're consistent with this, you will develop a tribe of raving fans that will absolutely blow up your business. And you'll be able to use that momentum to grow not just your referral database, but now, because you've got all that other business happening with all the other marketing efforts. Let's talk about a top agent for a second. So if I've got a team of agents, maybe I've got 2, 4, 6, 10, 12 agents on my team. I think of like a Tristan Ahumada or a Derek Jackson or a Tim Ray. Some of these guys have lots of agents on their team, and what's happening is they've got lots of signs out there. So everywhere somebody goes, they're seeing their sign. And every interaction they have with you or a member of your team, they feel like a part of the family. Game over.
I like that. Now let me play devil's advocate for just a couple of minutes, because I want to refine what you're saying, and I want to give us a chance to do that. There's only so much energy the human body has. There's only so much energy that you have in a day. And actually, there's only I forget what the number is, but there's only so many true, meaningful, direct one-to-one human relationships you can have. I don't know if it was like 130 or 170. I don't know what the number is, but it was somewhere right around that range. Some scientist wrote a book about it, and it was pretty popular, and I read it, but I forget what it is, unfortunately. Where do you balance between being able to have those true, deep connections and also caring? And I guess what I'm hearing is, I think your self-talk and your mindset around your business has to shift from being a transactional one to being, it sounds as it has to be as simple even as to go from I want to do 100 transactions this year to I want to make 100 meaningful connections this month and just see if I can help some people. It sounds to me like the actual self-talk has to shift a little bit around how you approach your business. Walk me through that.
You're right. It starts with the self-talk, right? So even before the mindset shift happens, the self-talk happens, right? You've got to say to yourself, I want to make this happen, but your subconscious mind may not believe it yet. So now you've got to go in, you've got to, whether you're doing affirmations or incantations, as Tony Robbins would do it, regardless of how you're doing it, you've got to begin to program your subconscious mind. And remember that your subconscious mind is far more powerful than your conscious mind, and it can't tell the difference between reality and what you tell it to believe.
Right.
So you got to make that happen. You got to get programmed into your subconscious mind. I'm relational. I care about people. I bring value to people at every moment. And when you make that switch, when you make that happen, magic happens. All of a sudden now your mindset shifts and people start to realize, hey, this guy actually does care. He really doesn't just see me as a paycheck. He actually cares about me enough that he wants to help me with whatever I got going on. We do that with coaching, for example. A lot of people, when they have done strategy sessions with other companies, they think it's just a big sales pitch for coaching. We don't do that. And because we don't do that, because when we do a strategy session, it's not a salesperson that does it, it's a coach that does it. And you're on the phone with a coach for an hour going over your business, and it's all about value for you. What's going on in your business? How can we help you take it to the next level? And we're focused on just bringing value as opposed to how do we get you to buy coaching. It's a very different model. It means a lot of times that your sales cycle might be a little bit longer, but you'll have deeper connections with your clients, and your retention rate will be far greater.
When I was a real estate agent 6-7 years ago, I did the whole 70 to about 120 phone calls a day, right? Smile and dial. The reason why I fell off following up for me personally is because I felt like a slimy salesperson. Now, I'm not just by nature, if you know me as a friend, I'm not that person at all, right? I'm a giver, and I'll give you the shirt off my back, or at least I've been described as such. And I know that a lot of people in real estate almost get their true personality to just serve and be a fun, good human gets kind of squashed under, or just kind of gets snuffed out in the midst of whatever coaching they're getting from their broker, whatever system they're being told to use to follow up, whatever scripts and dialogues they're getting hit with. And they lose the personality in that connection because it all becomes so scripted and so rote. And I know that for me personally, when I was following, because when I got into real estate, that's the kind of training I got with scripts, dialogues, right? Just close, almost boiler room type style brokerage that I was in. And it made me feel like a slimy salesperson. So what I'm hearing from your guys' follow-up process is that one of the reasons, it sounds like maybe one of the reasons that you guys do it the way you do it is to actually take the agent out of feeling like a salesperson and giving them a role that's non-salesy. Is that right? But also walk me through how important it is to have a follow-up process that feels more human, so that you actually yourself don't feel like a slimy salesperson, right? Or just a salesperson chasing somebody for a commission, because you feel that internally, and then you don't want to call people, right? Because you wouldn't want to get chased by somebody like that.
So here's really where it starts. You want to transition from being a salesperson to being a servant. And when you can not only believe that, but convey that you're here to serve, not to sell, all of a sudden magic happens. The other thing is you gotta act as if, right? You gotta have a high degree of confidence. I'm okay with scripts and dialogues. I think it's important, especially for I've got lots of scripts and dialogues I've used over and over again, and it doesn't mean that you're necessarily following it exactly word for word every time. But what you do need to do is you need to make it yours. And as you have conversations, the same objections come up, the same conversations come up. So it's okay to have kind of a dialogue that you're used to using that's consistent over time and that you repeat over and over and over again every single day. Because here's what it allows you to do. It allows you to focus on the relationship instead of the words that you're using. And
right. That's very important, by the way. Not have to get hung up on, am I saying the right words in the right sequence? That is so unnatural, and people sense it.
Yes, that's right. And that's why it's the other thing. You don't want that awkward, that awkward, how do I say this, or what do I say, or that sort of thing. You want to be free flowing, you want to be natural, and you want to be able to focus on their body language, look them in the eye. We could talk about NLP techniques all day long, and I'm a big NLP fan, where literally you're matching and mirroring them. If they're folding their arms, you start off, you fold your arms, and then as the conversation moves on and you start to get into rapport, you start to unfold your arms, and you'll see that they will naturally follow with you. And then you start to you see them leaning back and you're leaning back, and then all of a sudden you start to lean in and they start to lean in, and all of a sudden everybody's engaged and the conversation is happening at a much deeper level and you're in rapport, and now you can go for the close. So that is a problem. I will say this. It is a problem that many agents don't go for the close. So, if you think about, if I had to choose between, I'm just going to go out there and be touchy-feely, or I'm going to be the boiler room guy, I would say start off being the boiler room guy and learn how to develop relationships.
Got it. Okay, that makes sense. So what you're bringing up is actually a perfect transition for me to get into lead generation, because I want to ask you a specific question. But before that, I want to ask one final question about what we've been talking about follow-up. Mm-hmm. Or actually two questions. One is, remind me of how often do you throw client appreciation events?
4 times a year.
Four times a year, so once a quarter.
Yep.
Got it. Okay. So the follow-up process is 3 phone calls a day for the first 3 days, 3 phone calls per week for the next 3 weeks, 3 phone calls per month for the next 3 months. You're always going for a in-person meeting at the house, even if they're not looking to list, because you want to make that face-to-face connection, have a meaningful conversation, build some rapport. At that meeting, you want to schedule then the listing appointment, but you're not going to call it that. You're just going to call it a follow-up meeting to check in. Meanwhile, you're going to be dripping on them at least once a week with some sort of valuable content. You're going to be inviting them to your client appreciation events that happen once every 3 months. And you're going to be calling them maybe once a month personally, just to check in, make sure you're not dropping the ball, and see if the timeline has shifted on when they might be looking to sell their home, just so you're staying top of mind with them. Have I missed anything? Is there anything else that you put in your follow-up process, or that you coach your agents to put in their follow-up process?
So you got to make sure several things. One, I'm going to be dripping on them with email, which is the least effective of electronic communication, but I'm still going to use it. And
that's the once a week, right? About once a week, you're dripping something on them.
Once a week, they're getting something from us in email, but it's value driven, right? Then I'm going to be texting them on a pretty regular basis. So every time I invite them to a client event, they're also going to be getting a text message. When I call, leave them a message, they're going to get a text message, that sort of thing. Then I also want to add them to Facebook and other social media, primarily Facebook. It is really, really important that I friend them on Facebook. I want them to get to know me. Remember, they got to know, like, and trust me to do business with me. So by getting to know them on Facebook, and if I stick to my 80-20 rule, where 80% of my content on Facebook is personal in nature and only 20% is business, they're going to develop a relationship with me without me. I can build a relationship one to many, and they begin to develop that trust with me. Now, one thing you mentioned too is at the listing appointment. Or at the initial appointment, if they're 6 months out and I managed to get in the door today, I'm still treating that like a listing appointment. So when I go in there, I'm still going for the close. My goal is I'm going to list this thing today. Even though they said 6 months from now, my goal is to list this thing today. And so now if I get out there and I realize that there's a reason why 6 months from now makes more sense for them, and it's better for their situation to wait that 6 months, then I'm going to encourage them to do so. And I'm going to give them honest advice about what I think is best for their situation. So I'm not just going to try and go for the close just because it's good for me. But assuming that it's best for in their best interest to get it listed now, then I'm going to go for that close right now.
Got it. Okay, perfect. So transitioning now to then talking about lead generation, because we're doing this a little bit backwards, but I felt like it made sense to do it that way. You said something just a minute ago that you talked about, I think it was shifting from being a salesperson to being a servant mentality. Was that what you said?
Yes.
Okay. So I can relate to this on a personal level, just even with this summit. And I'm going to ask a devil's advocate question. And I want to play a little bit back and forth with you on this. Okay. So, because I agree with it, but I want to refine the thinking around it so that agents can understand it. So it's not vague and it's not in the clouds, but like Gary Vee says, it's down in the dirt too. Like, you know what to do with it. Right. With this summit, right? So this is the first summit I've ever organized. Lots of self-doubts come in, lots of, I don't know, I'm not sure. When you and I got introduced, right, prior to the summit, we talked about it. For a long time, I had looked at wanting to do a business where the business gave back, right? It contributed to the community or some sort of a cause. You read these books, you listen to these podcasts, you see all these things, you're like, man, these people have this cool purpose-driven business and it gives back and everybody loves them and their clients are their ambassadors. Man, I'd love that, right? Every entrepreneur would love that. And for me personally, with the summit giving back half the money from all the ticket sales to the charity that we're supporting, the orphanage, for me personally, it was just a matter of I just have to finally do it because I'm never going to do it if I just don't decide to do it. Mm-hmm. And then honestly, for me, the thing that really has worked to keep pushing through and making the summit happen was just being okay with vulnerability for me, embracing it. When you and I met and got introduced, I told you, right, this is my first summit. And I'm looking as much for advice from you on how to do the summit, right? As much as I'd like to interview you for the summit, right? Like I knew I had to be open and vulnerable, not pretend to be something that I wasn't, because I knew people would see through it, right?
That's right.
So now the question for you is this, and I just relate that to say that, going from just a salesperson mindset to going to a servant mindset where I want to serve the real estate community, I want to serve a cause, and I want to serve the group of speakers and just make an absolute win out of it for everybody. My question for you is this: if I'm a real estate agent, and let's say that I'm in my first or second year of business, I'm struggling financially, right? Everything that I've been trained to do by my brokerage or my broker, whatever, isn't working. Let's say I have a database of 100 to maybe 200 leads that include my sphere of influence and some leads and stuff, right? It is hard for that person. Let's say that they're dealing with life stresses, money stresses, bills, and pile it all on, right? It is sometimes hard to go from a salesperson mindset to a servant mindset when you almost have nothing to serve from emotionally. So walk me through how you start embracing the servant mindset and using it to grow your business if you're in that situation financially, emotionally, physically, maybe all around. How do you start doing that step by step? Like, how do I take the first step out of a negative emotional situation or in a negative financial situation and start completely rewiring how I do my real estate business with just a small, meager database of 100, 200 people? And let's say I don't even have any money to buy leads. Like, how do I start doing this? Okay, Michael, how do I start being a servant? You know what I mean? Like, how do I start doing that?
I love it. Well, first of all, I don't want anyone to confuse, hey, I'm going to be a servant with I've got to be broke or I've got to be, I've got to be lesser than what I can be. Look, you need to go out there and kill it. You're not doing anybody any favors by being broke. You're not doing any favors by not making it in this business. You can serve a whole lot more people when you've got a massive audience than when you've got a little teeny tiny audience. So you need to go deep with people to get to that massive audience. But that also means you need to go wide and you need to hit a lot of people so you can figure out who is going to be attracted to me. Who is going to want to do business with me? And a lot of the way you do that is by being who you are. Be authentic to who you are. If you're not, if you're pretending to be someone you're not, you're going to attract the wrong people. And a lot of times this happens when people are in desperate situations, where they've got that what we call commission breath, right? So right. To get the business, people can smell it on your breath. You need the business so bad. If that's happening for you, you've got to change that scenario because you're not going to attract the people that you should be attracting. So how do I do that? What's the physical steps to doing that? First and foremost, you got to begin with the end in mind, right? Napoleon Hill talks about that. So you got to understand, what's my goal? What do I really want to accomplish? What do I need to accomplish? And what would I really like to accomplish? Then you've got to program your brain. We talked about programming your subconscious mind. So you've got to do that with things like vision boards, affirmations, incantations. You've got to teach yourself, and you've got to convince yourself that you really are that person, that you really are successful, that you really are better than where you are today. So next, you got to surround yourself with people who are the kind of people you want to become. You want to do 100 transactions a year, then by golly, stop hanging out with people that do 10 transactions a year and start hanging out with people that do 100 transactions. I mean, seriously, it kills me. I hear these people all the time. Oh, especially like Southern California. Don't get me wrong, I love you guys. Shout out to my Southern California friends. But listen, when I go down there, the mindset is so different in Southern California than everywhere else in the country. Like, I did 12 transactions last year. I had a great year. But like 12 transactions, like that's a good week for me. Like, what are you talking about? And in fact, that's not even a good week. That's like, a good couple of days. It's like,
right.
You got to change that mindset. And so and the best way to do that is surround yourself with people who are where you want to be. So go ahead. You look like you've got something you're thinking that's on your mind.
I'm thinking through a lot, but I'm actively listening too. But you're very perceptive, Michael of Hellikson. I like that. I like that. Walk me through how you apply the servant mindset and couple it with aggressive and let's say assertive lead generation. Let's start digging into the granular bits of lead generation, how you coach lead generation, how you do lead generation. How did you do 50 to 75 listings on average per month? So let's talk about how to assertively do that while also maintaining a servant mindset.
All right, write this down. For everybody that's watching, you got to write this down. You got to be aggressive with the process, but never with people. So you've got to be all over that process. I'll give you an example. I got to have what's called the perfect daily schedule. It's one of the first things we work with our coaching clients on. Literally in the first 30 days that we're coaching somebody, we begin to dial in their perfect daily schedule. And that starts with figuring out, what are you doing now? And the perfect daily schedule is different for everybody. Andre, yours is going to be different than mine. It's going to be different than, this top agent over here is going to be different from the beginner over there. And so what you got to do is you got to first and foremost dial in your morning, right? So you and I were talking about Hal Elrod the other day, and I know you practice in the morning. Fantastic. That's awesome. That's something I'm weak at. But, I don't know if you know Amanda Todd. Amanda is another one that, she practices that Miracle Morning. Single mom, killing it at 30-plus transactions a month. And she's getting up early in the morning, and she's doing her workouts, she's doing her affirmations, she's doing her, all of the stuff that you do in terms of Miracle Morning. And it doesn't matter if you call it the Miracle Morning or if you follow or prescribe to that.
Right.
Just get up and get in action. And so then from 8 o'clock till noon, look, you have no business checking email, voicemail, social media, or any of that other crap between 8 o'clock and noon in the morning. During those hours, you need to be game on. You're calling people. You're reaching out one-on-one. Listen, so many people in this business say, well, I don't like cold calling. Fine. If you have one of two things. You either have an excess of time or an excess of money, or you have a shortage of time or a shortage of money. Some have a shortage of both. Well, guess what? Then you need to pick up the phone. You need to start calling people. Is that going to be the case forever? No. The last 15 years of my career, I didn't call a single expired or for sale by owner. But let me tell you something, the first couple of years of my career, that's all I worked my tail off. And eventually you need to get to where you can have balance in your life, spend more time with your family. But in the beginning, guess what? You're going to work hard. You're going to burn the midnight oil. You're going to work 7 days a week sometimes. I'm not saying that's healthy long term, and I want you to get away from that as quickly as possible. But you've got to start somewhere. So you've got to get into action, and it's particularly during that 8 to noon every morning.
So there's definitely a jumpstart season. Yes. So you said that the schedule can be different for everybody, but I'm also hearing that while the schedule in terms of the actual hours of the day or the flow can be different, there certainly are also some common denominators in every schedule, things that you must include in the schedule. It just might be different for what time of the day Amanda does it versus what time of the day Andre does it versus what time of the day, Michael does it. So what are the common denominators, though, that you make sure are in the schedule for every client if they're going to replicate the success that you've had and that your other successful clients have?
Yeah, if you're brand new in the business, you want to crush this. There are 3 things that you have to do. 90% of your day is made up of these 3 things: lead generation, lead follow-up, and lead conversion. That's it. Everything else is noise. Those are the 3 things you've got to focus 90% of your day on. Now, as you grow in your business, as you begin to get more successful, now you're going to transition from, you're not going to do as much lead generation. Why? Because you're going to have other people doing lead generation for you. You're going to have automated lead generation happening. So you're going to spend 90% of your day on lead follow-up and lead conversion. But you have to have those things in your schedule. Nothing else matters. Here's the thing. I don't care how great a servant you are. You can be the best. I'm the best at doing the paperwork. I'm the best at closing the transactions. I take great care of my clients. They love me. Blah, blah. Great. That's awesome. You're Mother Teresa. If you don't have any clients, you got nobody to serve. So you got to go out and you got to get some leads. You got to get business happening. And that means lead generation. Now, lead generation does not mean I have to cold call, door knock, call expireds, whatever. It doesn't mean you have to do certain things, but you have to do something, and you have to be aggressive and proactive about it.
Okay. So it's probably a little bit different in terms of what you should focus. Well, actually, it probably isn't that different what you should focus on lead generation when it comes to whether you're a brand new agent or even been in the business for a few years, et cetera. But let's do this. Let's now dive deep. Let's dive into the granular aspects of lead gen. I'm your client. I'm a new student of yours. You're coaching me. Let's say it's my first 18 months in the business. I've done 4 or 5 transactions. They're all only family and friends, right? I've been pounding the phones, let's say 50 to 60 calls a day from leads that my broker had. By the way, I'm not making the story up. This is somebody's story that I know, but I won't say who. I'm pounding the phones, but they're all graveyard leads that are like from dead pipelines of former agents that were at the brokerage. Right. But the belief is that if you just call people and follow up, business will come out of it, unless somebody's getting burned out, feeling like a salesperson, et cetera. But I know that I have to make something happen, right? It's up to me to make it happen. And I come to you, and now I'm a student of yours. What are you having me do specifically for lead generation? You said lead generation, lead follow-up, and lead conversion, right? But it has to start with the first one, lead generation, or you don't have anything to follow up on and nothing to convert. So give me 3 to 5 things that you would have me do day in and day out, or one thing this day, one thing on a Tuesday, another thing on a Wednesday, and just rotate. But what am I doing for lead generation?
Okay. So first and foremost, I've got to understand that it's going to be different lead generation based on where I'm at in my business. So yes, it does change as I have more of a mature business. Well, let me start as that beginner agent, that agent that's struggling. They're going to start off with things like for sale by owners, expired listings. They're going to call their sphere of influence, of course. They're going to do open houses. They're going to do a lot of proactive. Maybe they do door-to-door proactive. What we call chasing business. As I begin to transition, and now instead of as I get some dollars flowing in, I begin to get into a situation where I have more dollars than time. So now I can transition into attracting business. I can spend a little bit of money and make business come in. So now I'm attracting business instead of chasing business. So if I'm that brand new agent, the first thing I'm gonna do is I want to have well-rounded lead generation. So let's talk about that 8 o'clock to noon time frame. I'm a brand new agent. First thing I want to do from 8 o'clock till 9 o'clock, I'm going to call all of the new expired listings. Then I'm going to call all of the old expired listings. Then I'm going to call for sale by owners. Then I'm going to call other lead sources that I have. Then in that last hour, I'm going to call my sphere of influence and past clients if I have any. And so I'm making calls all the time for that 4 hours. And 60 calls a day, that's okay. But listen, if I'm new in the business and I'm struggling, I guess I feel like it's not too much to ask to prospect for 4 hours a day. I mean, seriously, it's a part-time job. I mean, if you were working for somebody else and somebody were paying you a salary, what would they expect you to do? Would you keep your job if you were, would you keep your job or get fired based on your current activity? So you've got to ask yourself this. And so I want to be very aggressive about that during those 4 hours. Then what I'm also going to do is I'm going to be holding a ton of open houses. As a new agent, open houses are a great way to go. And I'm not going to do weak open houses. I'm going to do massive open houses. You should be getting between 25 and 150 people out to each of your open houses. If you go to our blog, you can actually get, there's a free video on exactly how to do that. One of our clients, Ewan Graham in Colorado, just recently held his first massive open house. He hadn't done one before, followed our checklist to a T. and he had 86 people show up to his open house, wrote 5 transactions. So he had 3 buyers and 2 sellers that he got out of that one open house.
Nice.
So I'm going to do open houses as a brand new agent at least 3 or 4 times a week as a brand new agent. And I'm going to make my calls from the open house.
Now, you're saying when you do open houses, you're obviously sitting someone else's listing as an open house, right? If you don't have a listing.
I'll take that a step further. I'm going to look for whoever. If I don't have listings, then I'll sit anybody's listing. I'll also hit up all the for sale by owners in the area, and I'm going to offer to hold their house open. And I'll even tell them, Andre, you know what? I know that you're selling your homes for sale by owner. I totally respect that. I'm not trying to change that. What I would love to do is something that's going to be very good for you, and it's going to be very good for me also. I would love to hold what we call a massive open house with your home. I'm going to bring in somewhere between 25 and 150 real buyers. I'm going to get them through your home. They're going to get to take a look at it. And here's what's really cool. If the one that buys it, you keep them. You write up the transaction. I don't need any money out of that. You keep them. I want the other 24 to 149 people that are going to come through. They're going to buy something else. Would that be fair?
Okay.
It's a great for sale by owner strategy. Let me tell you, man, when the agents that are using this with their for sale by owners are getting listings out of it.
I like that. See, that's some solid real estate gold right there. So call a FSBO and then offer to do an open house of their FSBO and make it clear that they can sell the house. You're not going to look for a commission at that. You just want all the other traction that comes out of it.
That's right.
Okay.
Exactly.
So that's the one. So what else can I be doing for lead generation?
Okay, so you're going to hit up, like I said, all the standard stuff, the for sale by owners, the expired listings. You're going to call through your sphere of influence. 61% of the average agent's business comes from their sphere of influence, so don't forget them. Got to be all over that. And then get creative. Do some other stuff. Get involved. Get involved in the community. Get involved in charities in the area. Now, if I'm brand new, I just got my license today, and I don't know, anything from anything. Well, guess what? The very first thing I would do as a brand new agent today is go get on somebody's team. I'm going to go be a buyer's agent on somebody's team where I know I'm going to get training support, and I'm going to get the systems, the tools, technologies I need, and I'm going to get leads. So now I can learn this business. I can develop a little bit of cash flow. I can set a little bit aside so that if down the road I'd like to be out on my own, I have a nest egg to do that with, and I've got skills now, and I've got a little bit of a database.
Okay. So let's switch gears now to, let's say I'm an agent that's been in the business for 3, 4 years, 5 years, and I'm averaging, let's say, somewhere between maybe 60 or 70 to 100 transactions a year. How does it look different for me to start digging into lead generation and taking my business to the next level?
All right, that 60 to 100 years, 60 to 100 transactions a year agent, that is the most difficult time in your business, period.
Why?
Because that's when you go from transitioning from being the Lone Ranger to being a team leader. And when I'm the Lone Ranger, it's all me. I got to do everything. I'm doing lead generation, lead follow-up, lead conversion. I'm doing all my transaction coordination. What happens is, what it looks like is I go out and I work really, really hard to bring in leads, and then I get a whole bunch of leads, and I work really, really hard to take care of those leads, and then I get transactions out of it, and I work really, really hard to get those transactions closed. And all the while, I've let go of my lead generation, and so my income looks like a roller coaster. Now I'm, because now I make a bunch of money, and then all of a sudden I realize, oh my gosh, my pipeline dried up, so I got to go back into lead generation. So when you make that transition and you hire your first assistant, by the way, you guys should write this down too. If you don't have an assistant, you are one. So it's true. So I got to get that first assistant hired. Then my next goal is to get my first 2 buyer agents hired. In fact, for us to transition from what we call tier 1 into tier 2, you've got to get a full-time assistant and 2 full-time buyers agents to make that transition. Once go ahead.
No, I'm listening.
Okay. You leaned in like you were going to say something. Oh, okay. So.
Well, I'm leaning in to see if you match my body language, right? Because now we've gone from closed hands, folded arms, now unfolded, now leaning in. So, yeah.
I love it. Well, you know what? By the end of the interview, you're going to see that I'm going to have a blue shirt, iPod, and a little bit of a 5 o'clock shadow going on. Here you go, dude.
There you go.
All right. So check it out. So as I get that assistant hired, now I start getting my buyer's agents hired. Now I can really transition from also being a buyer and listing agent, because, I've been the jack of all trades. I'm handling sellers and buyers. Now I want to move away from that, and I want to have all my buyers handled by my buyer's agents, and I'm going to focus 100% on sellers. And then now I go from that 60 to 100 transaction mark. Now I'm doing 150 transactions a year. And then it becomes very systems generated, right? Now I got to get more lead generation sources in place. If I want to make, for example, and these are big numbers, and I hope I'm not scaring anybody here, but, depending on who's watching this, you'll get this. If you're at that level, you're thinking to yourself, how do I get to $1 million a year? Well, if I want to do $1 million in net income a year, working just 12 days a month, that's where we were. What I need is 12 to 15 lead sources that are consistently kicking off leads. And I need people in place that are very specialized in what they do. So in other words, I don't have people that are doing listings and buyers. I have people that are either buyers agents or listing agents. And I have administrative assistants that are administrative assistants. They're not an administrative assistant during the day and a buyer's agent at night. That doesn't work. That's not a great model. And so this is what happens as you get to that level. You start to segment that workflow, and all of a sudden you're building a real team and a real business that kicks off predictable income every single month.
Awesome. Okay. Well, and I'm looking forward to talking about that more. And guys, for those of you listening, we Michael and I are going to be doing a session, 2 more sessions actually together. And one session, the next session is going to be about listing presentations. We're going to rip that all apart. And then the third one's going to be about building your team and expansion teams. So we're going to really dig deep into that. But I like that you're bringing that up now. And definitely, you guys don't want to miss those. Don't want to miss the next 2 sessions with Michael as well. So the first thing that you said to write down was be aggressive with the process, but never with people. Or how did you say that?
That's exactly right. Okay. Aggressive with the process, but not with people.
Okay. And the second thing was that if you don't have an assistant, you are the assistant.
That's right.
Gotcha.
Right. Here's another good one. And these are not just cliches. These are, I don't want these to be platitudes. I want them to be life goals, right? So think about this. Write this one down. No success in the world can compensate for failure in the home. Now, this is really important. This is our core value statement at Club Wealth. It's no success in the world can compensate for failure in the home. I actually got it right here on the wall behind me. I don't know if you guys can read that from there, but that's what
okay. I see it.
Yeah. So, here's the thing. As real estate agents, we tend to work ourselves to death. We're working hard. You talk, especially that new agent, I'm working, and I just can't find the end of it. Well, listen, this business will chew through your family. It'll chew through relationships and particularly your marriage if you allow it to. You have to get deliberate and intentional about when and how you spend time, not only in your business, but with your family. And when you're with your family, put that freaking phone away. You need to be with your family. Now, this is a lot easier to do when you have a team. It's very difficult to do when you're the Lone Ranger. And so, people tell me all the time, I hear, oh, well, I don't need to build a big team. I don't want to build a big team. I just kind of want to do my thing. I make my whatever, blah, blah, blah per year, and I'm just going to do that. And I ask them, I say, well, how many days off are you taking a week? And a consistent response I get is, oh, I take a day off. I usually take at least 1 day off during the weekend. Really? Okay, well, which day is that? Oh, I'll take Sundays off. Okay, good. And do you handle emails or voicemails or answer the phone or deal with Facebook or social media that day? Well, yeah, I guess I do a little bit of that. And it's like, dude, you're not taking the day off. That's not a day off. So.
No, I agree. Well, I agree. And that's a whole, let's save that for the session when we talk about building your team and expanding that, just because there's so much to unpack around that. Is there anything that I have not asked you that I should have asked you about follow-up or lead generation that you want to make sure that we communicate and include in this?
You got to understand that you are not in the real estate business. Everybody thinks they're in the real estate business. What do you do for a living? Oh, I sell real estate. No, you don't. That's not the business you're in. Right.
Okay, so what business am I in?
I am in the lead generation business, period. If I have to choose between quantity and quality, particularly if I'm in tier 1 or tier 2, I'm a newer agent in the business. If I have to choose between quantity and quality, I'm going to choose quantity all day long. I will refine the quality. I will learn to provide better quality service, but I have to start with quantity. There's no excuse for not having quantity. You need to go out and you need to decide that, look, no matter what it takes, I'm going to generate leads. I'm going to follow up with those leads, and I'm going to convert those leads for 90% of my day, 90%.
And you're not talking about just internet leads then. You're just talking about leads in any way that you can generate them, whether it's buying internet leads if you can do that, or it's hosting an open house with a FISBO with another agent's listing. You're just talking about any and all possible sources of leads that can be generated, that can be used to generate leads. You're talking about just focus. If you're in the opening stages of your business, or if you're kind of sub 50 listings, sub 50 transactions per year, you're saying just go after it with aggressively and assertively to generate as much quantity as possible. If you're in that stage of the business, is that what you're saying?
That's exactly right. And that's a good segue into the next thing that we probably should touch on. which is purchase leads. And I don't want to offend every Keller Williams agent on the planet with this, but I want you guys to understand that it's been said, and I've heard it said that I feel bad even saying this, but Gary Keller came out at Family Reunion. Very brilliant guy. Love Gary, smart guy. He's crushed it, done amazing things. So Gary came out of Family Reunion last year and he said, hey, look, any agent that buys leads is lazy. Well, let me tell you this, you guys. Any agent that's doing over 400 transactions a year or even over 200 transactions a year, and there's a lot of them, guess what? They're buying leads. And at some point, you should be too. There's a lot of great lead sources out there that you can purchase. And I mean, there's thousands. There's literally over 2,000 lead sources in real estate today. There's companies cropping up every single day that specialize in driving leads to real estate agents, which means our margins are getting smaller and smaller, and we got to be more acute business people than we were before. That being said, though, these purchase leads are a great source of business. In terms of, would you like me to share a few of those lead sources?
Well, yeah, that's one of the questions I was preparing to ask is for everybody listening, what are 2, 3, even 5 maybe lead sources that you find typically work pretty well for buyers, for sellers, or separately? Walk me through, is the platform good for buyers, for sellers, for both? But yeah, please share what are some of the sources.
Well, let's talk first about the #1 seller lead source on the planet. Period. End of story. It's leadslikecandy.com. Leadslikecandy.com provides motivated.
Leadslikecandy.com.
Leadslikecandy.com. And let me tell you, they provide motivated seller leads. You got to follow up with them in a very particular way. You're following up with
3 times a day for the first 3 days, right?
That absolutely. Well, there's that too. The scripting you use is very different for that lead source too. Okay. And that's important. You got to understand that different lead sources require different scripting because how they came through that funnel is different than, like I'll give you an example, a referred lead. I'm going to have a different conversation with a referred lead than I am an expired listing. So it's important that I make sure that my scripting is appropriate, or that my conversation or dialogue or whatever you want to call it is appropriate to that lead source. So
sure.
leadslikecandy.com is fantastic. Love them to death. Then I've got things like if I have some listings, let's say I've got listings out there. It blows me away. They have listings and they don't have flyers in the flyer box. Are you kidding me? I mean, and people think, oh, well, it's 2000, whatever, it's 2017, 2018, whatever they are. It's the new year. And guess what? And nobody uses flyers anymore. Nobody uses, flyer boxes and all that stuff anymore. Yes, they do. They think that people are just going to go to Zillow or they're just going to go to realtor.com while they're sitting out in front of the house. That's not everybody. Okay, so the flyers still work. You should be getting 1.5 to 2.5 sign calls per week per sign in the ground. That's great buyer traffic. So you want to do everything you can to maximize that. Craigslist is a great one. Craigslist, you can advertise for free in Craigslist, drive a ton of leads. We've got agents that are consistently driving 5 to 15 buyer leads per day on Craigslist at virtually zero cost. There's a great system out there called ProQuest. You go to ivrdeal.com, you can get ProQuest Technologies, and it's a 1-800 call capture number. It's the best one out there. It's awesome. Somebody calls up, it's the for 24-hour free recorded information, call 1-800 blah 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 extension blah blah blah. Somebody calls that up, and they type in the extension number of the house, and they get to listen to a message about the house. You always, just like with your flyers and your Craigslist ads, you're always going to leave out the fatal 4. Which are bedrooms, bathrooms, square footage, and price. Leave those completely out of your marketing because that gives them the reason to call. If you tell people bedrooms, bathrooms, square footage, and price when you market, they have no reason to call you. So now they've called, they listen to that, and you say, due to rapidly changing pricing, due to rapidly changing market conditions, for current pricing information, please press 1. They press 1, it instantly connects them to you. You're on the phone. You've got an 82% call to conversation rate. Great way to grab leads.
I'll definitely support that. I've worked with ProQuest years ago. I use ProQuest as a consultant, actually, and I know Gary well, and he's on the summit too. So I definitely agree, can support everything you just said about that from experience. Definitely.
I will tell you, and people won't believe me when I say this, and you're gonna look at the look on Andre's face when I say this. If you guys are watching this, and you can ask Gary, he'll tell you. I literally got 6,352 consistent leads per month on my ProQuest. Per month. That's insane. I mean, think about those numbers. That's crazy numbers. So you guys, ProQuest works. And again, just go to ivrdeal.com. It's awesome. It's cheap, right? I think ProQuest now, I don't know the cost. It's a couple $100 to start up, and then like $100 a month.
Well, actually, for the summit, they've created a unique URL where they're giving no setup fee,
Done.
no setup fee, and 14-day free trial. This is the first time in the history of ProQuest that they're offering a free trial.
Well, and it's also the first time
done before.
As far as I know, I've never heard of them offering no setup fee either before.
Yeah, first time no setup fee.
Yeah.
First time a 14-day free trial. You get everything out of the gate, and they're doing it just for this summit, kicking off 2017. So it's huge. It is huge.
It's amazing technology. It works great. It's the best one out there. You know, people talk about their competitors and stuff like that, and the big difference between them and their competitors is the call to conversation rate. You know, like with Arch, you'll be at about a 25% call to conversation rate. With ProQuest, you're at about an 82%. So at the end of the day, you've got to be using those guys. So then you go back to some of the other standards, right? You got Zillow, Trulia, Realtor. You know, people love to hate these companies, right? I don't know why, but people love to hate, particularly Zillow. Everybody hates Zillow for some reason. You know, here's the way I look at it. Write these down. There's a couple of things you guys got to remember. One, I can be right or I can be rich. Pick it, right? What do you want to be? You want to be right or you want to be rich? So get your ego out of it. Quit being, quit thinking I'm going to change the industry and I'm going to make the industry conform to my belief system. That's not going to happen. Okay. So the other thing you got to understand is they're here, right? There's a tidal wave happening. You can either, and it's called Zillow and Realtor and Trulia and all. You can either ride that wave or you can get crushed by that wave. You pick.
Right.
So they're great lead sources. Now, are they great in every area? No. And not only that, some areas are a little more saturated than others. Some areas have better leads than others. I get that. You have to analyze that data. You have to figure out, you need to make sure you're getting the proper ROI on those lead sources. That being said, a lot of that comes down to how you handle those leads. It's usually not the lead source. If you've seen Glenn Ross, right? Here comes I'm going to channel my inner Alec Baldwin here, but the leads don't suck. You suck, right?
Right.
It's like, seriously, man, the leads are great. I'll tell you what, you give anybody in the country 100 leads, you give me those same leads, and I'm going to convert those leads at a higher level than most of those 100 people, than most of those other people that get those same leads. Why? Because of how I follow up and how I communicate with people, and because of how bad I want it. Here's another thing. With every lead source, and this is another thing about lead follow-up that we need to be talking about is, look, you have one goal, and that's to get an appointment. And too often people overqualify their appointments. Some coaches out there say, well, if they're not an 8, 9, or a 10 on the motivation scale, and you're not sure they're going to list it with you before you go out there, then don't bother going on the appointment. It's a waste of time. Man, that is the worst advice in the world. Listen, if you have a pulse and you got a house to sell, I'm going to be Jerry freaking Maguire in your living room. I'm on my way over right now, right? And if you don't have a pulse, I'm going to contact your estate planning attorney, and I'm going to get him to list it with me. You've got to want it that bad. How bad do you really want it? You got to be willing to. California, again, I always keep coming back to California, and I love my California friends and clients. I love it because I always hear. I'll give you an example. I sent a referral to an agent in San Diego a couple of years ago, and he calls me up and he says, "Well, I'm not going to take this referral. I don't want to go on this appointment." I said, well, why? He says, well, it's too far away. I don't want to drive to it. Why? Well, it's 45 minutes from my house. 45 minutes. So I look it up. It's an $845,000 house. And you don't want to go on a listing appointment because it's 45 minutes away? Are you kidding me? I don't get that. So my area, when I worked at a circle of 2.5 hours in any direction around my house. So essentially, I was putting 5,000 miles a month on my car. Would you be willing to put 5,000 miles a month on your car if you could bring in 450,000 a month in commissions? I'm going to say you better.
Right. Yeah.
So, anyway,
you can be right or you can be rich, right?
There you go.
I like it.
Lots of great lead sources out there, though.
Yeah. So to recap that, then, so leadsLikeCandy.com.
LeadsLikeCandy.com.
Yeah. Craigslist. ProQuest, the big standards, you can still use them, right? You're saying Zillow, Trulia, Realtor, right? And anything else that you would add to that list?
There's some great ones out there. You got Commissions Inc. Is one of our favorites. We love Commissions Inc. Some people are using Boomtown. Some people are using Teamleads. Look, there's all kinds of great platforms out there. It's not about the platform. It's about how you follow up with the
right. And like you said, there's over 2,000. I think you just said a crazy number. You said there's 2,000 lead sources in the industry available now. If you just count all possible lead sources and ways to get businesses, ways to get business. Yeah, that's nuts.
There's over 2,000. Another thing people aren't doing enough, they're on Facebook. And I think, and by the way, for those of you that are broke, get involved in Facebook groups, right? Get on Club Wealth, Real Estate Agent Mastermind, get on Lab Code Agents, get involved in those groups, and you can learn a ton there for free. But in addition to that, get involved in community groups, right? So, and what you got to do is don't go into a community group, and these are free Facebook groups. It doesn't cost you anything to get business this way. But let's say I like gardening, right? So I'll go get involved. And even if I don't like gardening, I might try and get involved in something like this. But, so I go to a gardening group, and I'm not going to jump in there and say, hey, fellow gardeners, I'm the local real estate agent. Come do business with me. Man, they're just going to be like, what a loser. And sometimes they'll even boot you out of the group. But if you come in there and you say, hey, realtors, here's my, let's just pretend this is my little plant, and I got a little dead plant here, right? I take a picture of me with my dead plant, and I'll say, hey, guys, can you help me out here? Because it's a good thing I'm a really good real estate agent, because I suck at gardening. Who can tell me what I've done wrong with this plant? Am I watering too much, not enough, blah, blah, blah. Dude, let me tell you, that's a great subtle way to throw out there that, hey, I'm in real estate, but I suck at gardening. Help me out, right? And people will jump on that, and they'll be like, oh, yeah, that looks like you over-fertilized it, and, you need to go to a 10-10-10 ratio, or, whatever. So
right.
The key is get involved in these groups, and Facebook groups are huge. Another one that's great, and this is one that we don't share very often, is oh my gosh, Bigger Profits. Go on Bigger Profits. It's an investor website. If you want to work with investors,
I think it's called Bigger Pockets.
Bigger Pockets, not profits. Sorry, Bigger Pockets. You're right. It is Bigger Pockets.
But Bigger Pockets lead to bigger profits, or is it Bigger Profits lead to bigger pockets?
Yeah, both. But yeah, if you go to Bigger Pockets, and not just Bigger Pockets, there's local real estate investor associations that you can go get involved in and get to know people. As you do that, guess what happens? You become the expert. If you serve people in that group, come from contribution, bring value, then all of a sudden people start to recognize you as an expert, and they'll do business with you. Go visit every attorney in your marketplace, particularly bankruptcy and estate planning attorneys. Get to know them, offer to do market analysis on their, if they need to know values of properties, help them out with that. Give them a detailed report, go with RPR, or whatever you got to do. But get involved and get in action.
I like it. I think that's a great place to end this session. I know we've covered a lot of ground. You guys should have probably taken at least 5 to 10 pages of notes out of this. We really went granular. Michael, thank you for opening up and just sharing in so much detail. I really appreciate it. I know that everybody who's listening to appreciates this, I'm certain. Any final? Do you have any final thoughts for this specific session about lead generation and follow-up?
Make it a daily routine. Make sure that you're developing your perfect daily schedule, and that it forces you, as long as you follow the right habits will lead you to success. So you've got to have that perfect daily schedule in place that forces you to do your lead generation, lead conversion, or lead generation, lead follow-up, and lead conversion on a daily basis for a minimum of 4 hours every single day.
And the best place for people to go and plug in for more content that you guys put out, because I know you guys at Club Wealth put out a lot of great content for free all the time. But the best place to start is where? Probably on Facebook. Then find your guys' Facebook group.
You definitely go on the Facebook group. We're the Club Wealth Real Estate Agent Mastermind group on Facebook. You can also go to our website. Just go to clubwealth.com and go to our blog. We put a ton of great videos. Like if you want to learn how to do an open house, there's an hour-long video with checklists and everything on how to do that. You want to learn how to do listing appointment, there's an hour-long video on that and the checklist that we use on our listing appointments. There's really deep content in there, and it's free. We really give away the stuff other people are charging for.
Yeah, I can't say enough good things about your guys' blog and the content you put out. So definitely, guys, go check it out, clubwealth.com, and go plug into the Facebook community so you can just get around other agents in the community and just be part of that active community that's happening on Facebook. Well, Mike, this has been Michael Hellikson from Club Wealth on lead generation and lead follow-up, and I'm looking forward to connecting with you in our next session.
Right on. Awesome. Thanks for having me, Andre.
Thank you.